Are you ready, you savages? This is RP Thor. Climb aboard the DragonShip and get some financial literacy. And we are off.
I've got the power of Thor in my hands. Thunderous hammer that will sting across all the land. I've got the power of Thor in my hands. Lightning strikes as the storm through the valleys of death.
Welcome to the DragonShip, gentlemen, and shield maidens, gentlemen. It's the Vikings that are aboard this ship, and we got some new faces. We got some guys manning the oars that have not been here before, or they have as guests. I'd like to welcome Kevin from Men of Now aboard the DragonShip, manning the starboard side oars. Brought his shield today. Hope he doesn't need his shield too much. And then we've got Laurent up front on the drums today, counting out the beat as we bring this ship up to 20 knots manually. That's right. So I'm glad everybody's here on the DragonShip. We got a fun show. Remember, the whole point of this show is to have some fun and talk about current issues that affect men and shield maidens to some extent, you know, because when we raise ourselves up as men, we naturally bring the shield maidens up with us. That's the whole point of the DragonShip, is that we are the rising tide that lifts all ships. So if you're watching this, be the rising tide that lifts all ships. Believe me, this comes back to you as you're raising the tide and you're treating people well. This comes back to you tenfold in time. So that's the point of the DragonShip, and I'm proud to head up the DragonShip and then pass that torch along to our other captains. Today, I'll go ahead and introduce everybody. We got Huds from Men of Now. Super happy to have you, Huds. How are you doing? And thank you again for the hard work on the thumbnails and our intro theme.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much for having me again. I am so excited to talk about this. I mean, we all saw what went on in the past week in the markets, if you do any type of stock trading, and a lot of people doing like the Forex stuff where you could borrow stuff from Japan at essentially a 0% interest rate, which I'm sure Laurent will talk about in time. But there's nothing more timely, because I really do think we have officially hit a recession. And people can argue with me, but I'm pretty sure it's here. So I'm very excited to talk about this today.
Man, that's fantastic. I'm just going to jump over to the chat real quick, and I want to say, Brown Suede, this touches my heart. You're going to do push-ups and squats the whole episode. Hell yes, Viking. You savage. Better get ready, because we're going to need our spirits today. Especially if we're going to tackle this money thing and plunder. You know, I can only imagine all of us landing on that beach, running up to that wonderful establishment and taking all their silver and gold.
Brown Suede, challenge accepted. Be right back.
And I definitely am on that path as well, just back to some push-ups and squats, gaining some energy back. As your one-eyed Thor, we will definitely be putting ourselves back into that tip-top mass monster shape very soon, and I hope to see you there as well. So, Tarl, Viking Paradigm. I see you're ready for war today.
Yes, sir. Ready to go. Resist the slave mind.
Resist the slave mind. Thank you, sir. That's the way to go. My VP, Drakkar, a fellow Drakkar, vice president, out of, well, let's just say an undisclosed location, somewhere deep inside Colorado. Paul.
What's going on, guys? I'm glad to be here. I've sort of been intermittently in and out of DragonShip and Rule Zero lately because I've had a lot of yard work to do, but that yard work's fucking done, man. It is done. It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here today.
Can I say something to you?
Yeah, anytime.
All right. Happy upcoming birthday, fucker.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, my birthday's on Monday. I didn't mention that on Rule Zero. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna be 45.
Yeah. Oh,
45.
Jesus Christ, you're an old fuck. All right.
Yeah, I think you need to retire. Sorry.
Look at the gray. Look at the gray in that skunk
You need to
beard,
get a
man.
house
Come on.
in Reno now.
I got another at least 20 years left.
Well, that's the beauty about that financial literacy, though, is that, you know, at age 45, you could have the option.
I expect in 40 years to still see you running around, kid.
If you know what, if I followed my own financial advice when I was 18, I could be retired right by now. I absolutely could have been. Yeah.
So that brings up an important point because I was actually at the point 2 years ago to do it. Life changes, expenses come, and they can happen in a second. So, I mean, the blackup plan held up, but it wouldn't allow for that immediate financial independence. Had to delay it for a few years. So always count on that. I'm sure everybody will get into it. But yeah, Paul, definitely. Now, AJ, who had a birthday last week, and I think he's just about done everything on his bucket list for age 35 or pretty close. How are you, brother?
Leos are the best.
I'm doing good. I haven't banged a midget yet. I'm still searching for that one.
All right.
What about
But thank you for the birthday. Happy birthday, Paul. I'm just continuing on my villain arc right now.
Yeah. And chat, go ahead and subscribe to Tarl, Paul, Huds, and every one of these guys has a YouTube channel and an X presence. Please go and subscribe, hit the like button. These guys do this out of a passion, and it's a passion to move things forward and lift things up, not to drag it down. Although sometimes it might sound like we're dragging it down and we're bashing people. In reality, that's not what we're doing. We're pointing out objective reality, and we're trying to encourage everybody to lift it up where it needs to be, at least in your individual life. And I'm looking at Mr. Stainless over there in Las Vegas. Oh, Stainless. Mike Stainless Steel. What are you doing, kid?
I am accepting Brown Suede's challenge. If he's going to do push-ups the whole podcast, I'm going to do this.
All right. Well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to have to do the Rollo Tomasi, huh?
You're missing the Dodge Challenger and the hot bitches.
The Dodge Challenger. You mean his Camaro?
Is Camaro, yeah.
I
helped
know
him
he
buy
has a
that
white
Camaro.
Camaro, but
I was there when he bought it.
yes, I know he has a white Camaro, but I'm talking about like a black Dodge Challenger.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Oh,
leaning
okay.
against the hood,
Right.
like-
I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
But no, I'm doing great here. I had a fantastic weekend. I raw dogged the internet and I pissed off a bunch of white knights and women. I think my most viral reply tweet now, it's coming up on 18,000 views and almost 800 likes. So go check out my Twitter if you want to see that nastiness. And I got to meet one of the Jedi Masters of cybersecurity, and he just posted a picture of me and him on his Twitter. So I'm having a fantastic weekend. The sun is shining. It's a great weekend here in Vegas.
Well, Steele, don't sell yourself short. I mean, you're out there hanging with a lot of the cool crowd. I mean, you're out with Gary with Nerdrotic. I mean, you're living your life, man, and you are that rising tide. And I would expect that everybody you had met feels that, sees that as you express your dominant masculine presence. Now, let's move along to one of the newest members of the crew, Kevin from Men of Now, because it's
Sir.
now. And since it's now, we have to be men. And therefore, we have Kevin from Men of Now.
That's a great way to put it, sir. And happy to be here. Thanks for having me. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. As men, health and fitness should always be a top priority. However, finance, fitness, financial health, that should be a close second for all men out there. And Paul said something that we can all say. I'm in the 45-year-old group as well. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. So if you didn't,
got some catching up to do. Got some catching up.
Woulda. Yeah. So never too late to start, but it's also never too early to start when it comes to personal finance and financial freedom.
Yeah, and fitness too. I mean, I'm 61 years old. Of course you can do it. Do it at any age. It's just something men do. And it's nice to see you guys like you just doing it.
Sure.
So now we're going to point our sails towards the far east and pull hard on our oars. Beat that drum. Keep that cadence up. And we're going to talk to Laurent from Tokyo, one of my dearest friends, a very successful trader, international trader, huge amounts of experience, and I'm sure pain. Therefore, he has wisdom in this arena. He's going to lead us today through some of these topics, and we're all going to comment in. We're going to talk. Sometimes talking about financial literacy isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but you know what? It is a huge component today to problem-solving skills, is having the resources to solve the problems. And as a man, your primary agency in life from birth is problem-solving skill. That is your primary agency. It's how you acquire mates. It's how you acquire food. It's how you acquire social acuity, is by problem solving. And so definitely there is a financial component of that, especially here in the US. It's kind of lacking, and it might be lacking worldwide, is the understanding of how money was designed, what it's there to do, and how to work it so that you can use it to your advantage. I remember when I was 16, my father, who might as well have been Odin, handed me this little tiny book, and it was called The Richest Man in Babylon. Anybody hear that?
Oh yeah, great book.
Anyway, I'm not going to dwell on it, but it was a good foundation to get me started in the right direction. I'm sure Laurent will push us in a great direction and talk about the psychology, why we sabotage ourselves with this money. And once again, back to the chat. Thanks everybody for jumping in here. This is one of the best panel podcasts you could ever come across, because we talk about practical things, hopefully in a lighthearted way that really touches you, and that you can take this information and move it forward in your own life. Laurent, to you. And thank you for hosting.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me over there?
Yes.
Sir?
Okay. So I'm in Hokkaido. I'm in a 5-star resort. This is our annual pilgrimage in the Hoshino Resort in Tomamu. It's so luxurious that when we arrive at Hokkaido, all around the airport, there are pictures of this place. And we pay $7 per head per night, because one of the persons I do business with has a chalet here. They say, oh yeah, come and use it. Anyhow, so yeah, it's interesting days in the market. Maybe we live in interesting times. I mean, we can talk about the carry trade if you want an explanation of what happened and why the markets aren't screwing from the top these days. And today we're going to talk about financial literacy, and we're going to talk about the stuff that you don't learn anywhere. You probably never learn, but we're going to talk about the foundations. I mean, you can learn everything about, oh, you read this book, you do this thing, and so on and so forth. Everything is about how to game, but no other game will ever survive. Like their example, the diet industry is a $40 billion business, and everybody gets fatter year after year after year. That tells you something. It's not working. So today we're going to talk about the same thing. We're going to talk about money. And okay, what would you like to have? Would you like to recap on the carry trade and explain how it works and why they affect and why Japan has
let's dive into that, because I think it's really important for everybody to understand across the board what happened this week, whether they're paying attention to it or not, and what it could potentially be an indicator of.
Okay, so I suggest you go on to a YouTube channel by Michael Galled. I was on his show a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago actually, and this week he did a show with a guy by the name of Weston Nakamura. Apparently this guy lives in Japan. I've never had the opportunity to meet this gentleman. But so what happened is the BOJ, which stands for Bank of Japan, had to raise the rates. The reason for this is Japan, for the very first time in 30 years, has experienced inflation. Now, inflation, the problem, there's an entire generation of people who don't know what inflation stands for in Japan. Back in 1992, Japan was in the bubble territory, and everything was overinflated. Since then, the prices have collapsed year after year after year after year. So Japan is the country where you give a Japanese person 100 yen, which is $1. You come back in a year, you get 80 cents back. The reason is they save the 20 yen, 20 cents. So Japan has been saving and saving and saving. It's been in deflation territory for the last 30 years. Come Corona, and Japan has moved into inflation territory for the very first time. This is a cost push inflation, as in the price of oil has gone up, and Japan was forced to maintain rates down. Meanwhile, all monetary authorities around the world were forced to raise rates to curb inflation. So you have what is called a rate differential, the rate delta. So the rest of the world was raising rates, while Japan was forced to keep it down. Then, because the price of oil, the price of energy went up, and Japan imported inflation from the rest of the world, Japan was forced to raise rate. It was forced to raise rate while other countries, namely the US, is in a situation where they need to cut the rates. So the direction of the rates in Japan is going up, while the rest of the world is going down. The carry trade is essentially defined as you borrow in yen, which is at zero, you borrow at zero, and then you invest in hard assets, or you invest in safe assets, which trade around 3-4%. So you borrow at 0%, you trade around 3-4%. You borrow cheap, and you can invest elsewhere. And it only works as long as a trajectory of rates going down will stay close to zero. But if the trajectory of rates is all of a sudden going up while the rest of the world is going down, the delta is reverting. And if you borrow with leverage, if you borrow leverage at 100 times, or there are literally trillions of dollars, all of a sudden the rent, what is called the rent of money, is going up. And people, it's no problem if you borrow $1 and then invest $1. But if you borrow, if you have $1 in,
we might be losing him again.
rate.
You
I'm
there,
sorry,
Laurent?
can you hear me now? Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
it's-
here.
Yep. Good.
I'm sorry, I'm on my phone actually. I'm on my phone and I'm trying to do this from my phone. I'm in the lobby of the hotel, so as not to wake up the family. And the internet can be a bit patchy here. So
Yeah,
what
you
we
better
have
roll
here
with
at the moment is the delta of rates is going the other way. So if you borrow in yen and invest in dollars, at the moment, you're going to get screwed, which means that trillions of dollars, because this is a trade that has been going on for 30 years. Trillions of dollars come due. And this is absolutely horrible. This is crushing for a lot of people. So that's the first thing. That's the carry trade.
So
And it happened not too long ago, I think. Yes.
Laurent, just so I understand, to back
Yeah.
up and preface this with the Japanese culture. With them culturally, savings is more important, it seems, than investing in many ways, at least generally. So when they save their money, they're experiencing inflation. So they're actually losing the value of that currency or asset. Is that what you're saying here, that they're experiencing now?
Yes. I mean, the yen jumped from 110 to the dollar to 170. So Japan has no choice. When the value of your savings has been halved, Japan is an important country. When the value of your savings has been halved in 3 years, there's a lot of discontent, there's a lot of discord in the country. Japan has no other choice but to raise rates. There's a lot of brewing discontent in this country. And I mean, if you want to come and do tourism in Japan, now is the time. Everything is cheap. Our friends from Thailand, they come to Japan and say, "Oh man, sushi is on me because everything here is so cheap."
Right.
Like, asshole.
So this is universal. This is a universal issue for all of us that save money in any country is inflation rates. If I'm saving my $100 and I am at a 3% inflation rate, I'm really only earning 1% on that money. Now, in many cases, I may not be earning anything. So it's not that wise for me to use a standard savings account. Now, I'm sure people will start to ask at some point, well, what do I do with my money? I don't want to risk in something super volatile, but good Lord, I'd like to earn, 2 to 4% interest on what I am saving, at least to stay even. Is that a fair statement that you would address with your clients?
Me, I don't deal with individuals.
Oh, okay.
But yes, yes. For the very first time, the Japanese people who are forced into savings, who save naturally, they realize that their savings is being wiped away, and the currency rate is wiping them away. So the Japanese government and the BOJ, they have no choice but to raise rates. There's a lot of discontent here. So the carry trade is the patient zero of what is happening worldwide is Japan. A lot of the growth, a lot of the leverage in the world has been financed by Japan by this carry trade, and this is coming undone. So,
and this is Laurent, I don't mean to interrupt, but is this what they consider forex trading?
No, it's not actually beyond forex trading. Forex trading is a bit different. Forex trading is just
okay. Hold on before we go there, guys. Before we go there, I got to bring us back in line. We're talking about financial literacy here, and some of the folks are not quite at that level yet. And just understanding basic inflation versus savings. I know you don't do individual clients, Laurent, because you know of your experience and things like that. But I think that's probably absolutely fundamental to a guy that's working a job or that's in corporate America is just starting out, or even a lot of our dragons just trying to get a handle on how do I get better in the future. I need to acquire these resources, number one, so that I can take care of myself, I can take care of my family in the future, or I can actually attract a mate. And in order to do that, I need to have some money. If I just save my money and I am not getting ahead because of inflation, I don't understand it. I'm hoping that you can kind of guide us in that basic area. I know you've got it, and the psychology of it.
Okay.
And I have
okay,
a
no problem.
as well.
So, okay, Ronald Reagan used to say that inflation is the silent killer that wipes away savings. So that dates back to Ronald Reagan. Back in the days, there was also it's 2:00 in the morning. I forgot the name, but the guy who curbed inflation. It was the Phillips curve, and so the idea there is if there's inflation, let's say there's a 7% inflation, and you put your money in the bank, 1 year from now you'll have 7% less, and so on and so forth, and 7% over 10 years, your money will be worth nothing. But if we go, I'm going to talk back about financial literacy. I would like to steer the ship in a different direction, and for this, I would. And so when there's inflation, you absolutely need to invest. We're going to talk. We can talk if you want to about the asset classes that you should be investing when there's inflation, like real estate, for instance. That's always a good one. Gold is a bit trickier, but gold is one of those assets. So this is probably why you see gold. But one of the reasons why the market, especially Nasdaq, has been going up. We can talk about the technicalities of this. I can explain that if you want to, but it's much more institutional level. One of the reasons why the stock market works in inflation is simply because they print more money. And in this case, for instance, one of the reasons why Nasdaq has been going up so much is because literally in Japan there's the pension account called NISA. And they have billions and billions of dollars, and they were forced to invest in hard currency. So this is why NVIDIA has gone up despite the fundamentals, despite nothing supporting it. It's simply because you have Japanese people who are forced to put their money into hard currency into asset yielding asset class like S&P, not S&P, Nasdaq. That's why everything that is divorced from fundamentals going up. But one thing that I would like to turn the ship into is financial literacy, and we're going to start from the bottom because it's like everything else. Like I said before, the diet industry is a very bloated industry, but everybody's getting fat. So something's going wrong. And one thing that I would like to do is ask the panel and have a picture of everybody and also all the audience. Don't put my pretty face on camera, but put the entire panel because this is a very visual question.
Okay, that would be Mike. Mike, you got it?
He's frozen.
That's okay. Oh, shoot. Getting cutouts there.
Okay, so one question. I'm doing this on my phone, so it's a bit complicated. I don't have enough bandwidth to. Yes, that's it. So one question. The first question is, I do believe, and I think that everybody will agree, that becoming rich and staying wealthy is a byproduct of our inner alignment of who we are as an identity to our daily habits. Fact of the matter is money permeates all layers of Maslow hierarchy of needs. So you know the Maslow hierarchy of needs. At the bottom, you start with like the survival level, shelter, food, sex. Well, if you don't have any money, good luck getting any of those, especially the sex part, as we all know. And the second layer is safety. Well, safety, money is a very big component of that. Then we have recognition or whatever. Also, and then at the top of it, we have self-actualization. Money, obviously, it's much easier to be self-actualized when you're Bill Gates than when you're a social justice warrior. So the one question that I get everybody on is, where do we inherit our values from money? We usually inherit them from our parents. So, but the really, really one question that everybody in this panel and the audience, I would like to internalize the question is, do you believe you are worthy of getting rich?
Yes.
No.
That's an important question.
Continue.
I will repeat it for you. Do you think you are worthy of getting rich?
Absolutely.
I want to jump on this. There's a really good book. A lot of you guys have probably heard of it, if not have read it already. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. One of the things that book is great for, besides, telling you how to invest for cash flow and the differences between liabilities and assets and stuff like that, is the mindset of money, which is what Laurent's alluding to here. Because his dad, his real dad, his biological dad was a teacher and had a very limited mindset when it came to money. And then his rich dad was actually his best friend's dad, who was a business owner, a wealthy business owner in Hawaii. And he would spend a lot of time over at his buddy's house, and his rich dad would teach them the value of money, teach them like how to invest. He would make them play Monopoly all day long to learn how to buy assets and that sort of thing. But one of the things that he taught him was the value of mindset, right? So an example is, if he needed a bike, he wanted a new bike, his poor dad would often say, we can't afford that. Yeah, I'm afraid we can't get a bike. We just don't have enough money, which is a very negative mindset, right? Mm-hmm. It's a very I can't attitude. And he would go to his rich dad and say, yeah, I want a bike, but my dad says we can't afford it. And his rich dad would go, well, how can we afford this? What can you do to make money? What can you do to raise the funds? And then they would start brainstorming and coming up with ways they can do it. And guess what? He would figure out how to get a goddamn bike. That's a mindset thing. It's the difference
of the biggest principles ever to problem solving is how you ask that question. In every aspect of life, Paul, that is like the fundamental, what you just said.
Yeah,
And
it's
the-
the difference between how why I can't and how can I. That's the only difference.
The way I like to look at it, guys, is there's billions of dollars or yen or pounds or whatever you want, right? It's just lying around out there. It's just lying around, just doing nothing. All I have to do is convince 1 million people to give me $1 each.
Solve a problem for them.
Just convince them to give it to you. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's just lying around.
Yeah, one thing that I have to say, like I am one of the younger guys on the panel. I want to share with everybody. Yes, I am 30 years old.
He's a baby.
So I'm a baby.
Child.
Oh,
But
we
as a
ban
baby, but as a baby, I have figured out that money isn't real, and it is, but it isn't. And the value of the dollar or yen or whatever it may be, that fluctuates. So understanding how the world reacts to exchanges of value is exactly what Laurent does. And that's exactly, I mean, hell, I got his book right here, Algorithmic Short Selling with Python. Absolutely fantastic book. And when you understand how the way the world works, then you can start to really make money.
Now, hey, Laurent, I have a question for you that maybe not just myself and the Dragons here can benefit from, but probably a lot of our viewers as well. Now that we know something is coming, whether it's a really bad recession or something like that, say you're just the average guy, you're making between $65,000 to $85,000 a year. What should you do in this trough? Should you borrow, like get a business loan and start a business, or should you get a house, or should you pay off? Like, should you just dump everything you've got into your debt and just annihilate it now?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Before, I mean, this is a very good question. But before we do that, to come back to the previous question, why is it important to start with the worthiness? And I can understand this question. I can answer this question. It depends on your level. It depends on where you are. For instance, we can talk about. This is a fantastic book by Paul Bauer. Everything I Wish I Knew is in my opinion, Paul has done one of the best vulgarization I've ever seen about all these gurus, and it's about a cycle. For instance, I actually just saw today I'm $9 million in debt, and I wish I could be $25 million in debt. It may be 50. I wish I could be 50. But if I tell that to anybody, oh, cool, then I'm gonna buy a ton of shit and so on and so forth. Like, no, it doesn't make sense. It depends on where you are. It depends on how. It depends on your progression. So it's not a cookie cutter answer to that. Like
This is an interesting one, Laurent. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. It's just interesting. You're saying that you leverage debt.
Yes.
Oh, dude, I'm leveraged up to the wazoo. I'm leveraged up to the wazoo. I'm $9 million worth in debt in real estate, which is actually a fantastic asset class you have in inflationary terms.
So let's get you in the U.S. and get you loans, huh?
You see, that's the difference. See, what Laurent's talking about is he's talking about real estate debt, which actually can build you money out of thin air, right? A lot of people hear that like, oh, I'm going to use debt to my advantage, and then they go buy a fucking car, which is consumer debt, which is not good debt, right? There's a difference between good debt and consumer debt, which is bad debt, right? Good debt will make you money. Consumer debt keeps you poor. You know, there's a difference there, and most people don't understand that. Most people don't understand that,
and that's what I'm seeking understanding, Laurent, on that.
So this is why the first question that we have, like, are you worthy of being rich? A lot of people, when deep inside, and I've known tons of guys. I have a great story about this. There was a dude was a bond trader. With a bond trader, they usually clip about $2 a year. Clip $2 a year. They make about $3 million a year. And this guy was popping Dom Perignon down from the building of Lehman Brothers, he was popping Dom Perignon like it was Pepsi Cola. He had hose dangling from his sides all the time. And when Lehman Brothers shock happened, this dude declared bankruptcy about 6 months down the road. And one day I bumped into him and said, "Dude, what's happening with you, man?" And he looked at me and said, "You know what? At the end of the day, I didn't believe that I was worthy of becoming rich. I'm just a poor Indian kid from Bombay." And you see, this guy had everything. He was obviously extraordinarily smart, obviously very talented. And yet, deep in his mind, in his psyche, he believed he was not worthy of becoming rich. And until we have internalized this, and for instance, we all have a friend who was very good at getting rich, but is awful at staying wealthy because he buys stupid watches or dumb Louis Vuitton shit and whatnot. We all know these kind of dudes there. They always exist. So getting rich, there's a science to getting rich, and there's a science to staying wealthy. And these are two different attitudes. So this is why starting with this, for instance, when Mike answered, "Yeah, do you believe you're worthy of getting rich, Mike?" And questionably said, "Yes," and I believe you. And until you believe it for yourself, you won't be, or you will be getting rich, and it will burn a hole through your pockets, like all those rappers, all those athletes. And this is really where we start. And then doing the inner game, and the outer game is just about techniques. It's just about this, that, and the other. But working on this first is by far what will get you ahead. Does it make any sense with you, gentlemen?
It does. And what I love about that, and the reason why I actually said no to it, I'm not worthy of being rich, but I am worthy of being wealthy.
Now, see, another thing that Laurent's bringing up too, right, is basically paradigm. You know, consciously, like what Mike was saying, consciously you can know that, yeah, I can just get 1 million people to give me $1, right? Consciously, you know, that's possible. It's a possible thing. But if your paradigm, your subconscious mind says it's not possible for me, though, right? You're not going to do it. You're not going to take the actions necessary to do it. So you actually have to. That's one of the best things of this book right here. Think and Grow Rich, right? Now we're going to get into the woo-woo a little bit, but if you read that book on repeat, and it will develop that mindset in your head of how that you can do it. That's going to change your paradigm. And then you're going to start coming up with ideas of how you could do it. And as long as you take action on those ideas, you will get rich by law, right? Because Laurent says there is a science to it, but that science doesn't mean shit if you don't take action.
Yeah, there's a famous Ford quote, something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing, that whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Yep,
absolutely, and it's in this book too. That's where that quote.
So Laurent, maybe, let me just tweak my question a little bit. In this economic downturn, should the average guy, right? We're not talking about someone who has real estate. We're talking about someone, they work their job, they rent, and they have bad debt. So like maybe some credit card debt. In an economic downturn like this, should they, like, for example, yes, this is about me, but I'm sure this applies to other guys as well. So like my credit score just broke the 730. It's the highest it's ever been in my entire life. So should I do something like borrow in a downturn, like a business loan, or should I pay off my bad debt, my credit card debt that I used to pay things like my cell phone bill, my power bill when I was unemployed?
Can I answer
Kevin,
this?
what's your opinion?
I think I should.
Yeah,
pay it
I want to
off.
hear from Kevin. I want to hear what Kevin has to say on
okay.
this.
Yeah, let's hear what Kevin says.
Yeah, well, I'm a huge advocate for not owing anybody anything. So, Mike, my answer would be get rid of that high interest debt that is not helping you out in any way, shape, or form, and then look into borrowing for good debt. I don't know the phrase verbatim, but the borrower is slave to the lender. Does that make sense? That's why they want to keep you
Yep.
charging. That's why if you walk into a bank, they have marble floors when you have shag carpet, because the bad debt, it just keeps rolling and rolling and you can get out of hand. So my opinion, you would always want to get rid of any and all consumer debt first before you look at going into more debt, even if it's for a business, because that can come back and bite you.
I want to add on to that, because I talk about that in my book. And so one of the questions Mike has is, right, in this economic downturn, should you do X, Y, and Z? Doesn't fucking matter what the market's doing. You should work on getting out of debt first using the debt snowball method. That's a Dave Ramsey-ism, but it's fucking tried and true. Get out of debt first, because if you don't owe anybody any money, you actually have a lot of money, right? It doesn't matter what you're making. You can make $60,000 a year. If you have no bills, all that money's yours, right? So get out of the, don't worry about what the market's doing. Get out of debt. And then, like Kevin said, if you want to get a business loan because you actually want to start a business or something like that, that would be a good time to do it when you're out of all the consumer debt.
Yeah,
but I also talk about get out of that debt, but before you get out of debt, build yourself up an emergency fund, because you'll find that it's really hard to get out of debt when you use your credit card for emergencies. So you put cash aside for your emergency fund so you don't have to use your credit card for emergencies, then get out of debt, then start taking all that money you were putting towards your debt to 6 months savings. So you have a fuck you fund in case you lose your job or something like that. Then worry about investments and all that kind of stuff like that. I would say that's a tried and true method.
Because what's that expression?
like
If you
that.
have no
Makes a
debt
ton of sense.
and $10 in your pocket, you're in the top 10% of Americans by wealth.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I mean, I don't know it verbatim, but
I
yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
I have
I was
followed that.
horrified to know that. I was horrified to know that the average American has only $400 of savings. It's not even
it's
worth
worse.
a month of rent. For
No,
me, it's
it's worse
horrifying
than that.
because
It's way worse than that. The average 65-year-old has only around less than 200,000 in retirement savings. It's incredible.
and it's
Most have
horrifying.
around
But
50. It's pretty
if
wild.
you think about it, like Jorge Amado is a Brazilian author, and he said that the smartest thing that a slave owner ever did was to replace the iron shackles with the invisible shackles of money. So they
Yeah.
freed their slaves, and then they put a store in the middle of the plantation. So
Yeah.
people were forced to buy stuff from the store, and they put themselves in debt. And when you put in debt, you're going to have to pay that debt one way or another. And then the slave owner, all of a sudden becomes a merchant. And he knows that nobody's going to flee, nobody's going to go anywhere because they're in debt. They have these invisible financial shackles. And until you pay them back, you're fucked. And the system is rigged in a way that they make you want stuff.
Yeah, the
make you
system
wanna
is
fuck
very,
like
very
people.
rigged. Can we talk just a bit about
So,
credit,
as
Laurent?
I like that.
I don't know if you can hear me.
So pay
Really
your
like
debt,
the
have
famous
an
song,
emergency
16
fund,
tons.
and then you have freedom. And the way to do that is actually very easy. You start with the smallest balance, and you work your way up. You don't
Snowball,
start with the one
right?
with the highest interest. You start with the smallest balance.
Mhm.
And the math of this is like impeccable. You start with the ones where you have the smallest balance, and then you have a knock-on effect, and then it becomes much, much, much easier. There's a guy by the name of Ramit Sethi who explains how to do it. Speaking of which, that moves us to the second part of this. What are the channels? How can we educate ourselves? Who are the guys we should be listening to? Because money, YouTube is charlatan central, right? And everything dealing with money is charlatan central. You should never. Everybody who comes to me, who should I be listening to? My question, my default answer is: assume everybody is a charlatan. Assume everybody wants your money. Don't trust anybody, starting with yours truly. So who should you be listening to? Who should you educate yourself with? Paul was mentioning Robert Kiyosaki, was mentioning Robert Ramsey. So Kevin and Paul, who are the most literate in the matter, who do you think people should be listening to?
You want to take it first, Paul?
To listen to me, man, because I know what I'm talking about. Now, I am a big fan of Robert Kiyosaki and Dave Ramsey, and that's because I've taken their principles and applied it in my life, and I've seen it fucking work. You know, so if you can watch Dave Ramsey, a lot of people don't like him because he gets a little religious, and if you're not a religious person, that might turn you off a little bit. But an alternative book that basically has the same thing besides my book is Money Mastering the Game by Tony Robbins. It literally has the same process that Dave Ramsey breaks down. He just takes out all the religious stuff out of it, but it's the same process. It's a tried and true process.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey, I followed that too. I didn't have the books. All I had was The Richest Man in Babylon. But I have remained debt-free for decades, including mortgages. They're all gone. It's a good thing to have, but what I've been slow to learn is that credit actually is money when you look at it correctly. I was hoping I could get Laurent to comment on this, because I had been advised years ago to borrow against my primary house to buy more real estate. And I've watched friends do that and get completely wrecked. However, there is ways to use credit wisely without losing your assets. I've learned this through asset protection attorneys and things like that. Laurent, can you explain a little bit why credit is basically money and can be used like money and assets? And if you're smart about it, you can do things like DSCR loans here in the US. Have you heard of those? Those are basically debt service coverage ratio loans. It's about cash flow. And it's a way for you, if you have good credit and minimal debt, to borrow money that's essentially working for you in a very kind of an easy fashion, but not a lot of people know about that. If you don't know anything about it, that's fine. We can talk later. But what's your thoughts on credit? Good credit, credit that you can use as money.
There's a very, math is simple. If you can borrow and leverage, if you can borrow borrow in assets that yield more than what you borrow them for. And more importantly, it's also about the term structure. For instance, I got into good real estate and I got into bad real estate. So here's the difference. I got into good real estate as in our own physical buildings. And I got into bad real estate as in I bought a sort of REIT, and the rate at which I borrowed was variable, whereas the yield that I got from this financial product was more or less fixed.
Okay.
And that is really bad idea, because the variable rate, as rate increases and you have a fixed rate, over the long term, this is a really bad thing, because what happens is you want to borrow at fixed rate if possible.
You said fixed, right? You said fixed.
Yes. If you can borrow at a fixed rate, and then this is always better, because your costs, if they move all the time, one day they can move very much against you. And this is what is happening with one of my asset class, where I borrowed at a variable rate, and that thing was more or less fixed rate. So I got into it when the yield was very low, and it's a 20-year loan. Yeah. So month after month, I'm bleeding about $1,000, give or take. But because it's also covered by good real estate, I don't worry much about it. So
the cash flow is covered.
Yes, and this is something that you should be worried about, is like what is called the professional terms, the term structure. The term structure is the duration on the x-axis, and then how much if you can borrow at this, and then it's the differential yield. This is exactly what the carry trade is happening at the moment on a global scale.
Yes.
The world was borrowing in yen, and then they were borrowing in yen at, give or take, a fixed rate, and they were investing at a variable rate. And now that the term structure has inverted, which is now people borrow, the the rent of money is going up while the yield of money is going down, everybody gets unscrewed from the top.
Yeah, guys, out in the chat, please like and submit this. Laurent is a world-class quant, and if you don't know what a quant is, he's a quant analyst. These are rare guys that are hired by the largest firms to do short and long range analytics to help them with their balance sheet, with their investments. You know, a lot of these companies, they have assets, they keep them on their balance sheet so they can keep their stock up. Laurent understands this and the use of credit at that level. And I was just trying to bring it back down to where we might have some of our guys just starting out, doing the Dave Ramsey method, possibly learning how to create a nest egg so that they build an opportunity. When an opportunity arises, they can use the cash is king model and jump right on it. Would you say, Laurent, that cash is king when opportunities arise? You know, when a good deal comes up, you can jump on it.
That's a very good point. Dry powder. So keep your powder dry.
Powder dry. What does that mean? Can you explain to the audience what that means?
Okay, keep your powder dry is okay. What happens very often is bear market are times where fortunes transit from one hand to the next. And I clearly remember, like I've seen so many bear markets. I'm a bear market specialist, so I'm the kind of guy where when shit starts to hit the ventilation system, I get phone calls, and
what do I do, Laurent?
This is the time when you want to be in cash.
This is a good time.
Because this is the time when you want to have cash to buy assets. Because what's his name? Warren Buffett just liquidated
my God. He liquidated so much.
Apple. He just banked out of Apple, and now he's like sitting on $77 billion. Like, okay, let's go shopping.
That's almost
He
$1 billion.
knows. I mean, this guy could bail out the U.S. nation. He could bail out America, and this is the time when if you have cash, you can walk up to somebody, hey, I'll buy it for 50 cents on the dollar. People, I don't want to sell. Okay, I'll come back tomorrow. There was actually one of the wealthiest men who ever lived was the guy who invented firefighters, and he was a guy in Rome. I forgot his name. But he used to run around. He used to have like a fire brigade with ladders and everything. And when the house was burning, he was just sit in front and wait. Like wait, but aren't you gonna do anything? Cool, I'll buy your house for 70 cents on the dollar. No, I'm not selling. No worries. Then the house would keep on burning. I'll buy your house for 50 cents on the dollar. No, I'm not selling. Okay, I'll buy your house for 10 cents on the dollar. And people say, okay, get in. So the idea there is when you have cash, you're in the buyer's market. When there are for sellers, when people are overly leveraged, you can walk in and scoop some deals. So now is a good time to be in cash and then get some good deals. You can buy houses. Speaking of which, what's your idea about, is owning a house an asset or a liability? What do you think?
Liability.
Kevin, Paul, and everybody, and Thor, what do you think?
It depends. If you turn it into a rental, then it becomes an asset. If you do not generate income or revenue from the property, then it's a liability because it costs money to maintain it and to pay property taxes on it.
Anybody else want to go? Because I would lean towards the other way.
I would say overall, it's an asset with the current market trends, whether you have it as a rental or not. Because like when I bought this place in 2020, I bought it for $216. I can sell as is right now for probably $270 to $350 in that range without touching a single thing on it. So it was a turnkey investment for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I believe owning your home, especially outright, is a major asset because it's an appreciating asset. Now, markets go up, they go down. However, real estate overwhelmingly always appreciates. And saying just pay the property taxes, you're gonna have to pay those anyways. And upkeep, yeah, you have to put money in that, but you know, when you sell, you get all that money back plus some. So
Sure.
your home is usually your biggest asset, especially if you're middle class American. But I paid my house off about 3 years ago, and I'm gonna tell you, there was a weight
Feels
lifted
good.
off my shoulder. A weight lifted off my shoulders that I didn't even know was there, because I had been in some kind of consumer debt or some since I was 18 years old. So I would definitely advocate for, if you have the means, to pay your house off early, not only because it's a great asset to have, it adds to your net worth, but also you skip a lot of interest that you pay over time. You know, borrowing $100,000 for a house at 5% interest over 30 years, you pay almost $250,000 back. So you skip a lot of that. And I would definitely say, if you have the means to pay your house off early, do so.
Yeah,
Are you an
I would
advocate?
take
Kevin, I have another question for you. Sorry, I want to hop in here, guys, because I don't want to lose Raduco's comment here, because I know, Kevin, we've talked about Dave Ramsey before.
Yeah.
What do you think about this statement?
Well, I would want to know what advice was specifically idiotic. Now, I went through Dave Ramsey's financial mastery coaching course. I do not agree with everything he says. However, if you've ever read the book Total Money Makeover, which I read about 10 years ago, where it outlines the baby steps that Paul was talking about earlier, that is a great foundation. But I'm of the mindset is learn his baby steps and then stay away from Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey is a multi-millionaire, which money does not matter to him anymore. So it's easy for him to give the advice that he does. However, we're in 2024, not in 1980. And he is still kind of stuck in that mindset of how to invest money. So I don't really take a whole bunch of stock into the way he talks about investments, especially when it comes to rental properties or that kind of stuff. If you want to leverage some debt to buy some rental properties, I am all for that, as long as you can do it on a 15-year loan and you can actually clear a little bit at the end of the month and you can have that paid off in 15. He's about pay cash for everything. And the average person, that's daunting, especially in today's market, to say, okay, I paid my house off, now I want to buy a rental. How long would it take you to save up $300,000 to buy a property that's probably going to generate $1,200 a month? But if you can borrow that money and get 6 when they're all paid off, you're going to be a millionaire, and somebody else is going to pay that off for you. Now, there's going to be ups and downs, and you're going to have to come out of pocket every now and then. But I'm all for leveraging debt for those types of assets.
Now, Kevin, are you an advocate for, I've heard of this strategy where typically you make 1 mortgage payment per month, so that's 12 mortgage payments a year. Some people, their strategy is to make 13 payments a year.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've heard of that. And then if you do that, you take 11 years off of a 30-year mortgage. However, to me, that's the bare minimum. You need to throw every extra dollar you can at your mortgage, because once again, like I said before, you're beating all that interest because you pay the interest up front. And so, but no, I mean, if that's your strategy, yeah, you can knock a ton of years off of a 30-year mortgage by doing that one extra payment towards the principal every year.
Yep.
Yeah, my current mortgage is set up to pay every 2 weeks, half the payment. So it comes out to 13 payments a year, actually, which I'm actually in the process of getting ready to sell my place. One, I read Bachelor Pad Economics from Aaron Clary, which has helped like shift my view on money and stuff. And I've done some work with Laurent, talked with Fowler. I'm going to probably rent for another year once I sell this place, get closer to work. And then will watch interest rates. If they're at a level that I feel acceptable, then I will buy again. I have the option of the VA loan from being in the Navy. So that does help me out a lot right there.
One thing I'll say about buying houses, a lot of people are rushing for that American dream, right? Like, I got to have a house, got to have a white picket fence, got to have 2.5 kids. No, the fuck you don't. Not right away, especially in this market. We're in a housing bubble right now. You can start seeing that it's starting to go down, though, because people are buying these 500,000 houses and then they can't sell it for 500,000. They're like, fuck, they're already taking losses. So now is the time to wait. Now is the time to sit in the rents and just wait, because it's going to bottom out again, and then it's going to be affordable again. You just got to wait your time.
Yeah, that's what I plan on doing fully right there with it. Another thing is, I'm a single guy with a dog. I bought this house when I was engaged, so I have a 1,900 square foot house, and it's just me. So I don't need it.
Comment on that because I did all that. Yeah. So what I did is, with my regular salary, I save 13% per year. You know what happens to that in 7 years? Anybody? I just use regular savings.
Doubles, right?
more than doubles. I had nearly
More
twice,
than doubles, yeah.
I had nearly twice my annual salary in cash. So when I bought the house, I bought it on a 10-year note and then paid an extra payment off as necessary. So I'm sorry, 15-year note. So it did go down like that. But what it did for me is establish a huge credit score. So if I was a young guy, I would do it a little different. I would start looking at saving the cash. Instead of going in and buying things cash, I'd have enough cash and credit score to look at something like a DCRA loan, which is that it's essentially a new kind of loan. It's not really new. It's been around for a long time here in the US. And instead of buying a house and having a nice house and all those things, you get caught up in the keep up with the Jones race. Trust me, it's easy to get caught up and keep up with the Jones, get the car, get the house, get all that stuff, get the wife. You want to delay that satisfaction. But what you could do is if you had a year's salary in your back pocket, you wouldn't have to use it all. You could use 20% and the house that or the duplex you want to buy with one of these loans. And I'll say it again, guys, because it's super important. And it's something that I think is going to come up for you now. So this is actual. It's called a DSCR loan. It is a debt service coverage ratio. It's about the cash flow you can get out of a piece of property. And the property is your collateral. And you're going to go in with a smaller amount down. So essentially, you're going to borrow this money. And I would say if I was a young man doing the same things I did now, by the time I had my bank account rolled, I would look here for something like a duplex or a quadruplex because I could borrow that money and the cash flow would actually pay all my expenses. Now, I wouldn't necessarily be money ahead, but I'm putting money into that equity and I'm building and building and building. And it's pretty impressive the way this is set up. Don't borrow against a house that you already have that you're playing keep up with the Joneses with and do a home equity loan. Don't do that. There's many smarter ways to use credit. But if I actually have guys in the Dragons that have duplexes and they lived in them for a while and then they're out. Now I've got 2 renters in there. I've got my loan being paid. I got a cash flow going for my maintenance and savings. And it may only be a couple of $100 a month to start with. Hey, let it roll and keep doing that 13% into your savings from your regular salary. Delay that satisfaction. Because I tell you, as soon as you pay that house off and you have this, or even if you have a year, can you imagine as a young guy, Mike Steele, you have a year's salary in the bank? Imagine for a moment. Things start to look really good. Man, I could borrow this money. I could drive a Lambo. Think all the poon I'm going to get, man, statusing. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get that. No. This is a virus.
Stop.
And they count on you. They count on you.
Never buy a Lambo. Never buy a Lambo. Only dumbasses buy Lambos.
Okay. Well, anything.
A Lambo is a bad idea.
It could be a Hummer,
Lifestyle
right?
creep.
It could be a motorcycle, it could be anything, but it starts to lure you in when you have this kind of savings. I mean, everybody's going to try to pick it away from you. So the hardest thing in my mind, Laurent, maybe you can talk about the psychology, is not getting those things and waiting, having that discipline, that self-discipline to delay the satisfaction. You know something about that, right, Laurent?
Yes, I do. Actually, the idea is about the automation. So I always talk about the AAA. The number one, and this is about personal finance. But it's accountability. So always talk about people talk about budget and so on and so forth. But the first thing is keep track of how you spend. So that's account. Then allocate. Certain portion of it goes to investment. Certain portion of it goes to debt. So it's about fixed cost, variable cost, and the third part is automate. So if you don't have to think about it, if it takes care of itself, like you invest a certain amount every month. But more importantly, this is really important. This is probably the third part of this talk today. But I wanted to come back to what Mike said about the 13-month mortgage and why it's important and why the math behind it. The math behind it, why is it important to pay a 13 or even 14-month mortgage? First of all, you should have as low as possible mortgage payment a month so that actually you can generate a 13 months. The reason for this is because this 13 months, once you go, every repayment that you do to the service of your debt, of your mortgage debt, goes to reduce the principal. The debt is constituted of the principal, which is the notional amount of what you borrow, the capital, and the interest. And the 13th and 14th and 15th month goes to servicing the principal. So when you reduce that,
Let's give him a second.
Yeah.
so over time it compounds. And Einstein used to say that the compounding is the third most powerful force in the universe. So if you go and service this, that is really important. And then you will clear your debt very quickly. This will give you what is called velocity. Oh shit, we're getting technical here. But the velocity of your capital will increase, which means that your bank will see you not as a liability, but as an asset. Remember, and one thing that is important to when people, like AJ was a case in point, he lives in a house too big for himself. When people borrow to buy their own house, they usually oversize. And then what you realize is is what I call in my book the Hotel California principle. If you can't get out of it, you don't own shit. Shit owns you. So when you have too big of a house, then you can't switch jobs. You can't take risks. You can't divorce your better half because you have mortgage payments at the end of the month. And your life becomes a liability. You don't own anything. This thing owns your ass, and you sign away your freedom. This is why owning a house can very much turn from an asset to a liability, because a lot of people, they oversize their borrowing in proportion to what the amount of income they generate, and they can't switch jobs because they don't have as Paul mentioned, the 6 month emergency fund. Does it make any sense? This is really, really important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Makes a lot of sense because that asset can chain you down. It can destroy your freedom, or it can enable you to acquire more freedom. For sure. And I think a lot of people do miss that. I missed that for about a decade. Yeah.
This
What's your view on this?
This is why you don't buy a Lamborghini.
My apologies, though.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Mike said this is why you don't buy a Lamborghini. Another great book that I recommend too is The Millionaire Next Door, because that one really puts things in perspective. Because a lot of people think that really wealthy people are driving around like Ric Flair in fucking Lambos and limousine riding, jet flying with their diamond ring wearing bullshit. They're not. Most actual wealthy people that actually have money in the bank, money in their pockets, don't do any of that shit. They have like a house in the suburbs that's affordable. They have a nice, reliable, like Toyota or Ford vehicle. They don't have a Ferrari. They're not living in debt. And most of these really, guys that you would think are wealthy because they're driving around in Bugattis, they're totally credit card rich, So that's something to think about.
Can you define that, Paul? Credit card rich. What does that mean?
It means like you make enough money to where credit card companies are like, oh, well, we're going to give you a black fucking diamond card or whatever is the cool card that gives you like, $100,000 credit limit. And then you go and you buy all the stuff on credit. Well, you don't actually have any money in your pocket. The bank owns everything. The credit card
don't do that. What do you do? Laurent, don't stop.
Are you showing your actual numbers there? Don't do that.
Oh. No, I have the same card. The numbers are on the back.
Oh, okay. Right, that's fine. But yeah, so you buy all this fancy stuff and everyone thinks you're rich because you have all this fancy stuff, but really you don't own shit. The bank owns everything. The credit card companies own everything. Exactly. And you're just paying them back. And so all the money that you do make in your whatever job that you make is going to pay off your debt, and you're just living paycheck to paycheck still.
Yeah.
So
guys,
you're not really rich.
People do get trapped at, because someone like me, and I know that some of the others that are borderline wealthy, and I mean, it doesn't bother them what anything costs on the menu. You just get what you want. Is that if you're strategic and tactical too, you can use credit cards and pay it off every month. And
Yes.
that's something that is
Miles.
a great way to leverage credit, build credit, and I funnel everything through 3, and then it's always automatically paid. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is a way to deal with it.
If you're smart and disciplined enough to do that, then yeah, absolutely. I do the same thing. I only have one card, and it's one of the airline cards. So every purchase I make goes towards air miles, so I can travel and stuff like that.
Well,
And
I
just
like
keep-
that.
Well, hold on. No,
What?
we got to stop this whole conversation. You're getting all these airline miles, and yet you've never come and visited me.
You haven't come and visited me.
Well, that's because the land of brotherly love is got a little too many rainbows out there. But
I don't get stabbed.
Hud,
It's starting to look like London.
your dad is sick, and you haven't came and saw me.
but I have come to see Thor. I went to go see Thor.
Don't worry
once.
about
I've
it.
seen Mike Steele. I've been out there. But
No,
yeah,
it's brilliant. You should have more than one, though. Let me just clarify. The reason you do is your discipline. There are credit cards, and I would recommend a minimum of 3 that have a decent that you're maintaining, because these credit card companies get strange. Somebody sells information. You cross one border without a 5-day notice, they shut your card down. Now you're stuck somewhere. Ask Aaron Clary about that when he went to the Philippines. So
Now
you need to understand how these things work. Even if you notify them, you need to have backups. That's all I'm saying.
oh,
Yes.
that
Now
makes
they
sense.
are getting better with that because of algorithms, and yes, they're reading your email. So like when I flew to Miami for the CME, shout out to Donovan Sharp. I didn't need to notify my credit card company that I was flying to Miami, because my credit card company was able to read my ticket information email from my Gmail account. They already knew I was going.
Well, yeah, and especially if you buy a ticket from the card, they have that
Preference.
information. Yeah.
Exactly. But still, I took 2 credit cards to Miami. I bought
Yep.
the airline ticket with one credit card and the hotel with a different credit card. And so 2 separate companies, they knew I was in Miami. I didn't have to call and say I was going to travel. Their
Yeah,
algorithms, their AI algorithms are so good, you don't need to call them anymore for the
No,
most part.
I do want to add this though. There's a reason why Dave Ramsey recommends not owning a credit card, and that's because most people are too fucking stupid to do this. Most people are like, "Oh no, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get the free airline miles," and then they rack up a whole lot of debt and they never pay it off, and then they just rack up a shitload of credit card debt. Like if you have to be disciplined to do that, and if you're
Exactly.
not disciplined to do that, then Dave Ramsey's right.
Well,
So
that's
if you're
where-
like that, there is a way around it. I mean, you could open a Coinbase account, have some Tether or USDC, and you could limit that, and they'll give you a credit card that's directly tied to that without trading fees that ties into your Tether or your
US dollar.
because
Yeah,
USDC. And that's a good
Forrest,
way to
that's
do it
such a good
because it'll
point.
stop you.
well,
sorry,
here's-
I didn't mean to
And they'll
interrupt.
pay you
Just-
4%.
No, if you do like Coinbase Pro too, like if you're into this type of stuff, they'll give you like I think mine's like 5.6%.
Right. I
So
don't have
you
that.
just
Yeah.
park your money, you make way more than you would make in any type of savings account, and then you're just pulling from that for it.
Yeah, you
It's
have a debit card
absolutely
that's
wild.
also a Visa. Right.
And
Yeah.
well, here's the unfortunate reality, and this is one of those areas where Dave Ramsey and I heavily disagree. Guys, if you try to not have a credit card and then buy a plane ticket, rent a hotel, or rent a car, try it. Watch what happens.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah, there's a couple of car rental companies. I think like Dollar will let you do it with a debit card, but yeah, I agree with that, right? And like Dave Ramsey's like, oh, your FICO score doesn't matter. Fuck yeah, it matters, especially if you want to buy a house. That credit history does matter. So if you can get a credit card and then just keep, put a little bit on it and pay it off every month, that actually will build your credit score up so that you can buy a house later. And that's working the system. But most people are too fucking stupid to do that.
Yeah, exactly. His
I
advice
don't
that-
think it's stupid. It's a lack of discipline, like you said. And here, especially here in America with the young people, the buy it, I want it now. The microwave generation, if you want to call it, they want it now. And then I'll just pay it off in time. But if you do have the discipline, like that card that Laurent, that same I have, it's a platinum Sky Miles card, you can actually front load it. And what I mean by that is if I have $100 balance on it, I can make a payment of $500. It'll pay that $100 balance off, and then there's a $400 credit on there. So for the next $400, it doesn't even hit my credit statement. And that's how I pay all my bills that I have. I have nothing but taxes, utilities, and insurance because I'm completely debt free. But I have them all put on there, and then every time I get paid, I put $1,000 on it, and it's always still in the green. So there's ways you can do that, and I'm earning points, earning miles, and that's why I'm flying to Dublin for free here on the 20th. I paid $53 because I bought the insurance. So you can use rewards cards to your advantage, but don't look at it as a shopping spree.
Yeah.
To go out on. And unfortunately, that's what most young people do. And then I want to touch bases on something that we talked about earlier with buying too much house. You know, the term house poor. That's very, very much a thing. You need to keep it in percentages. So your take-home income, if your mortgage payment is more than 30% of your take-home pay, you need to really reevaluate why you live in that house and might want to get out of it, because that's what anything above that, in my opinion, you're house poor. And that means, yeah, you got a big fancy house, but you can't even pay to get the lawn done. You have to do it yourself. That's being house poor. You can do the same thing with cars. I saw this a lot in the military. You've probably seen it too, Paul. Go to E4 to E5. That was from junior enlisted to NCO. Back then, it was about a $400 pay raise a month. And you would see these guys, oh man, I made sergeant. I'm going to go buy a brand new Ram at $650 a month truck payment. So they did not only wiped out that raise they got, now they're $250 more in the hole because they went out and bought a brand new car just because they got a raise. They thought, and that's the mindset that you have to shift. Instead of thinking of what can I buy with this new money, think where can I put this money where it can make more, where it can work for me. High yield money market accounts.
Cannot fathom a car payment. I've always bought every car used in cash.
Yeah,
one thing can't even fathom that.
One thing that Dave
car's the way to go.
One thing that Dave Ramsey talks about, right, is all he ever talks about is investing in growth stock mutual funds. I recommend index funds over standard mutual funds just because the fees are better on the back end and you have less taxes and stuff on the back end.
You do it mutual?
I have a bunch of different accounts I use. I have Fidelity, and I use what's the other one I use? Vanguard.
Charles Schwab.
I use Vanguard. So
yeah.
So that's what's that, Thor?
Dividend index fund. I've done pretty good with that, but just curious.
Yeah. And I actually allocate my funds the way Dave says to do it. But my point is that that's a starter method, right? You're still putting all your eggs in one basket, and when you really want to diversify and you're making enough money, like Kevin said, you want to start parking this money where it can work for you, and you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So that's where you start putting some money in crypto. You start putting a little bit of money in real estate. I buy gold and silver all the time. Really good book on that is Fake by Robert Kiyosaki. He talks about how, money is not real, and, God's money is always going to be worth something. In an economic collapse, Reduco, he's, why doesn't Dave talk about that? Well, because Dave's, limited mindset. So do your own research.
So, Paul,
yeah.
Having an audience here that's so varied. And I know that, these are topics that Beer Club covers in depth behind a paywall. The Dragons membership does too, with some of these top tier folks. Not so much to give advice, but to give, here's information, you go get it. It's like Dragons. Men of Now is really good at this as well. Access to educate yourself on those resources. I wanted to pause right there for everybody in the audience, how important that is to get an education, not just guess, not just watch the YouTube, because a lot of guys say a lot of shit on YouTube, but to actually find somebody that's had some success in what we're just talking about right now, like Laurent, Kevin, paying off his house. These are real world experiences that have also been coupled with suffering and pain. So they have wisdom here. And so I just wanted to launch out there. You can find Men of Now. You can find the Dragons membership on Become Durable. Heck, guys, if you're interested in that, it's really cheap. You get to talk to people that have done this. So I would encourage that.
Huds and Thor and I were actually talking about having a product where you can pay one membership fee and join all three groups. So
yeah,
we still have to work that out, but
possibly Laurent too with school. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that would be fantastic. I'm like so Oh man, I'm so looking forward to combining this because you're going to get so many different experiences and so many different forms of wisdom across the board. And
And
that's
you get
what's
them for
so
very
exciting
much,
about this. Say again?
and you'll get them for nearly free, and you'll get everything for nearly free. Like for instance, I remember like King Dre one day he told me like, dude, for all the shit, for all the advice that you give me, I want to pay you. And I told him like, dude, King Dre, with all due respect, with all the love in the world, you can't afford me. And he said, oh, for the stuff that I do professionally, you can't afford me. So all this stuff and all this good advice from all these good people, you can get it for nearly free if you get the DragonShip, Men of Now, the Beer Club. So guys, join because you're in the brotherhood, in the company of people who are very experienced, who have done, and they'll do it for free out of brotherly advices. So this is the kind of stuff that we discuss behind the paywall that you can't get for real. You'd have to pay thousands of dollars, and over there, like, oh yeah, you do that. What? And then boom, problem solved. So join those things. One thing that I would like to touch on is what kind of channels would you recommend to educate yourself? Like for instance, Paul is one of the, in my opinion, is the best vulgarization. The way you move from Dave Ramsey to Robert Kiyosaki and forward and talking about funds and so on and so forth, it's probably one of the best vulgarization. I keep on recommending your book, Paul. So because you've really done the work, it really shows. So what are the one thing that one channel that I've seen is Caleb Hammer. The guy is about financial audits. So it's much more about entertainment. It's about entertainment, but it rings true for a lot of people. Another one is Rabbit City. He's on Netflix. He's actually I've been in touch with him. And he's a bit of an arrogant dude, but he makes a lot of sense. So, what kind of personal finance channels would you like to recommend, or do you listen to?
Do I? I don't listen to personal finance channels at all. I read books. That's I read books and I'm like, that seems plausible. Let me try that out for a little bit, and then I'm like, oh, this works. I'm actually making a huge return on this. This is great.
To be quite honest, I don't seek out channels. I seek out people.
Yes.
And so like the dragons out there that are listening that are not on this panel right now, talk to someone who's done it. So like when I have financial questions, I don't start Googling random financial advice. I call these guys.
Yeah.
Thor's got a paid off house and rental properties. Kevin's house is paid off. AJ has bought a house. All of these men here are more financially successful than me, which means they have knowledge and receipts that they can give to me if I humbly ask them for help and insight. So I don't reach out to them because they have YouTube channels. I reach out to them because they're my boys and I've seen with my own two eyes their success. So you can do that in your own life. It doesn't have to be some dude with a YouTube channel, that millionaire who whose desk is an airplane wing and everything. I forget what his name is, but like, don't necessarily watch his channel like unless you're like on track to become a millionaire. Then maybe start watching his channel. Talk to your dad. Like, is your dad out of debt and the house is paid off? If that's the case, talk to your dad first. Talk to your buddy whose house is paid off and has no debt. Look for those people first before you start looking up random dudes on YouTube who you can't certify their financial status.
Well, that's a good point. I don't mind listening to some things here and there, but in all honesty, I can't tell you because of disclosure, but I will talk directly with folks you would know. And Laurent's one of them, for sure. Should questions come up, to me, that's a better way, someone who's been there, someone who's done these things or can point me in the right direction. And how do you get that? We just talked about get yourself a group of Vikings and you're going to go on an exploratory run. You're going to learn to become friends and social, and you're going to share your experiences. And that is the rising tide that lifts all ships.
Yep,
I do want to say one thing before we transition here. I know Paul has alluded to it, but for those who don't know, he's got a pretty fantastic book that actually outlines some of this. And I want to go ahead and just throw some information out there.
Life is a journey filled with twists and turns. Why is it that essential life lessons aren't taught in school? You probably know that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, but do you know how to invest in a Roth IRA? We're not taught to build ourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. The roadmap to success is more than just a college degree. You don't have to follow the traditional route. Success isn't confined to a classroom. It's about discovering your own path. You ever wish that someone handed you a guidebook to life when you were 18? Well, it's never too late to rewrite your story. Everything I wish I knew when I was 18. Advice for young men to create a great life for themselves. This book is your compass, guiding you to pick the right career, how to invest wisely, and how to prepare for a fulfilling future. To take control of your health and your fitness. Learn how to date efficiently and find genuine desire. And master the art of leading healthy relationships. Your path is defined by the choices you make, not by others' expectations. Don't wait until you're 35 to unlock your potential. Order your copy now on Amazon. Rewrite your story. Build the life you deserve.
It's a great book.
Don't wait to rewrite your story.
Now I gotta compliment definitely the author on that book. It's a really good book. It's a great entry level. All the things you'd need to know starting out is right there at your fingertips. Read that book. And then I need to shame all the Vikings out there. You've got a world-class quant trader, international, sitting in Tokyo. I don't see a single super chat. You know, we've got some new rewards for super chats over $10 that you guys are going to love. And I've got 238 people listening right now. Maybe they don't know what questions to ask. It could be our fault. You know, we really went strong and deep today against the current. So
I see some questions in the comments, and then we're like, "Hey, send a super chat. We'll answer that question."
$2. That's
absolutely. And
actually 99 cents. I think you can get one with that.
I'll take some responsibility there, but yeah, we went deep. But keep in mind, this is just scratching the surface of what you probably would want to know coming up at any age. I mean, what are you doing for your retirement planning? What are you doing for your emergency funding? These are all parts of problem solving. They affect your personality, how you operate. The dragons, the men of now, mind chrysalis. All of this addresses these issues because they're perennial issues that all of us face. We're in the economy together. We're not isolated as much as we want to think, well, I'm lone wolfing this against you guys, F you. It ain't like that. You're affected by every decision that's up that food chain all the way to the Federal Reserve and the International Monetary Fund. So you need to be aware of those sort of things so you can make good decisions in your financial life. You know.
Shout out to you, Josh, Renegade Wingman. He's also a part of Men of Now, and 100% take advantage of this knowledge.
Yeah, he needs to come on here too a couple times. So
now
he will soon enough.
Yeah. Now, Laurent, I have a question that that maybe the dragons can benefit from, sir. Now we're all red pilled here, but do you have a white pill? And what I mean by that is there's all this talk, all this news. It's the right wing people on X and YouTube. It's the left wing people on the mainstream media. Everyone is saying we're headed for financial collapse. All these countries are are abandoning the U.S. dollar and are going for gold. Our economy is going to collapse, and it's going to be bedlam, and we're going to be killing each other with pew-pews, just trying to get gasoline and water. What is the actual likelihood that's going to happen? And what's the white pill for the young men out there looking to put a dent in the universe?
You asking me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So the unwinding of the carry trade is probably one of the biggest events in I would say the last 5 years. So if the carry trade gets unwound more, at the moment the Bank of Japan is caught between satisfying the populace, the Japanese populace, like I said, this is untenable for the Japanese people, and appeasing global markets. So because this carry trade has financed trillions of dollars. So we're probably looking into a correction of a bear market. And remember that all markets go up. It's called synchronicity. All markets are correlated, as the brainwashed feminists here love to say. Correlation is not causation. Oh, bitch, tell me what R square is. Give me the formula of R square. I don't understand what you're saying. You're so misogynistic. Anyhow, all markets are correlated, which means that they go up together and they go down together. And if there's an unwinding of the carry trade, we're looking in. We could very well look into the abyss. Now, is it going to be a Mad Max scenario? I doubt it, because there are tons and tons of backstops behind it. Now, markets will adapt, and the thing that people are most afraid of is, number one, the unwinding of the carry trade, and number two is decentralization of finance, namely crypto, blockchain, and so on and so forth. So this is what the US is absolutely worried about. What could trigger the collapse of the US dollar is if energy was labeled in any other currency. Now, look back into history. Gaddafi was trying to nominate.
Laurent, back up. You said energy labeled in another currency. You're talking about the petrodollar?
I'm sorry?
You said energy being labeled in anything other than dollars. Is that what you said?
Anything else than US dollars. So, for instance, the Chinese, they pay in renminbi. The Gaddafi was trying to do this in euro. It was petro euro instead of petrodollars. I mean, Gaddafi was a benevolent tyrant, and as soon as he tried to nominate oil in euro, the US brought democracy. His ass was dead. So this is the US is terrified, absolutely terrified of having energy labeled in anything else than dollar. Because the day it happens is the day you can kiss your dollar goodbye.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
And that's the nightmare scenario. That's the World War III scenario.
So
we'll go to war over that.
scenario. But what would you say to young men who have given up on life? There's no point in advancing my career. There's no point in buying a house because the world's just going to collapse anyway. What is the statistical likelihood that that's going to happen and everything's going to go to shit?
Oh, that's actually a very good question. This is a 1,000-year-old question because the doomsday scenario has happened every year since every year for the last 1,000 years. So how can I say, around the year 1000, people were afraid that the world would come to an end, and the Mayan calendar in 2012, and so on and so forth. So every other year there's a planetary conflagration. Like there's a planet destroying event. And forget about it. Just go on with your day, put money in the bank, put money in investment, pay your debt, keep marching on. Because if you see this, you're wasting your time worrying about all this shit. You're wasting your time.
Right.
So
that's what I want to add. I want to add on to that because this was one of the things that was going off in the chat was, when everything collapses, your index funds are going to be worth shit. It's like, well, you don't have any control of that. And all investments are a risk of some form anyway. So any money that you're willing to put into any investment, whether it's crypto, gold, or whatever, you got to be okay with it going to zero. And the thing is that none of these markets have ever gone to zero. And everyone's been talking for years about financial collapse. It's never fucking happened. So it's like spending your time worrying about fear and lack and why you shouldn't do something is just not productive to you. It's a terrible fucking mindset.
And here's what I have to say, guys. Which is scarier? Becoming a warlord at age 30 because everything went to shit and it's Mad Max, or being 85 and broke?
That's more realistic. Being 85 and broke is way more realistic than you becoming a fucking warlord in a Mad Max situation.
So wait, you're telling me all the work I've been doing on myself for nothing now?
Yeah.
Bullshit.
So imagine not advancing your career. Imagine not saving. Imagine not investing because you thought the world was going to end year after year after year after year, and it didn't end, and it didn't, and it didn't, and now you're 85 and broke, and the world's still chugging on. And
Yep.
now you're about to be homeless because no one's going to give an 85-year-old a job, and you're broke,
Yep.
which is worse.
We got a couple of super chats here, guys, and they did the thing. They got $10. They did the thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Here we go, folks. Hit it, Paul.
Hold on. Pull up the first one, Mike, and read it, and then we'll play the thing.
Christianity.
Nick. No, I just said thanks, Nick.
Christianity Unplugged with the $10 super chat. Keep up the good work, guys. A great discussion. Appreciate you guys. Hit us, Paul.
Super chat, we see you there. Shake it, dance without a care. Sending love from everywhere. Groovy beats we all can share. Your support is so divine. Moving closer to the line. Thank you, you're the best. Party on, we never rest.
Makes my knees wobble.
I am stealing that for when I'm on live with Glenn, when Glenn gets all his super chats in the middle of the night.
don't let Glenn
Just to
have
hit all
it.
those good old Bible peoples.
Yeah, that was good because that was Christianity Unplugged that sent that super chat.
Thanks, Nick.
Oh, we got another one. We got another one, guys. We got another one.
Absolutely. Mr. Bouloy and the Department of Numenistics with the $10 super chat. There's only one voice that can read this super chat. If you're in credit card debt, work a side hustle to build up quickly your emergency savings, lots of it, and then power down that credit card debt, power down all of it. You just get all of it. And then short-term sacrifice for the long-term gain. Now you got to go get it. Now, Paul, hit us.
Super chat, we see you there. Shake it, dance without a care. Sending love from everywhere. Groovy beats we all can share. Your support is so divine. Moving closer to the line. Thank you, you're the best. Party on, we never rest.
Jiggles in all the right places.
hold on. We've got some bouncing booties. If you want bouncing bobs, send a $20 super chat.
Yeah.
That's kryptonite to us Vikings.
Or reach $20. So if you already sent a 10 and you send another 10.
Oh, I'm gonna have to re-upload the bobs because Thor's got too many videos in the thing.
Oh, it's more
It's on our storage.
No worries. I mean, there's something that can go.
It's all about the bobs and vagine, right?
Hey,
The bobs
So
and
for the
vagine.
$15 super chat, we need a vibrating vagine video made.
So now that all the viewers are distracted, just to rephrase and repeat what Laurent said, basically, guys, like don't get all wrapped around the axle about everything collapsing and water being worth more than gold and all of that crap. You need to chug on as if that's not going to happen, because statistically it will not. So it is more statistically likely that you will grow old and die than the United States and the world will collapse and turn into Mad Max. So you need to live your life accordingly.
It doesn't hurt to put some money in index funds, put some money in gold, put some money in, whatever, and also buy lead, right? Like also invest your money in some lead in case you do have to become a warlord, right?
Wait, are you
Brass and
telling
lead.
me to go to Staples and buy a whole bunch of those
I'm talking
mechanical
about-
pencils?
I'm talking about
That's
bullets.
graphite.
I'm
Pew
talking
pews.
about
yes.
bullets,
Pew lead.
Huds, yeah. Guns and ammo is good, right? But you can also invest in these other things and just cover all your bases, right?
Yeah, especially if you live in America and you are not, a felon, and you're allowed to buy a gun. Huds, are you auditioning for Deadpool?
Yeah, I'm just like curious, as if I don't know what bullets are.
Are you
My
allowed to have that in
beautiful-
Philadelphia?
It's
you can
not,
have that
guys. It's
same
not
thing in
real.
Philadelphia.
He lost his real one in an unfortunate boating accident.
It is real.
That's a
Talking
toy.
about?
It's a
I'm
toy.
licensed to this.
You have to have a license in Philadelphia. How
What in
well, no,
British
how
it's not
rainbow
your
bright?
name.
How rainbow bright?
Get a second
Every
one.
gun needs to have the serial number tied to a name, so of course I have that. And then I
Get a
also have
second
my
one. Dress up
concealed.
as Deadpool.
I also have my concealed
So-
carry license. I do
so
not
rainbow
take that out with me. That's for fun at the range.
That's
So
for fun.
Vikings, if you hey, reach out to the Instagram if you ever want to go out shooting. But yeah,
I'm with you, Huds.
Yeah, I wanted to add something really quick. What you were talking about, Mike, and this excuse is what I'm going to call it, to say I'm not going to do anything because the world's going to go to an end. That's really feeble and immature mindset. Because if the world goes to the end, it's not going to matter. I'd rather have it and then the world go to the end and say, if not, I'm not going to do it, and then not have anything. And then the more likely scenario is being 85 and broke. So to come up with excuses that I don't want to invest because we might have a downturn. Well, you know what? A downturn is time to buy if you switch to the right mindset. The biggest one we've had recently would probably be the one in 08, when Alan Greenspan came out and said, we are looking like we're heading to a recession. And markets went down over about 6 months, 50%. So that didn't even wipe out everything. You were down half your money, not all of it. But if you were down half your money, that means everything's down. That means time to buy because it's on sale. So if I have a 30% drop in the market, I'm going to take some liquid cash and buy some securities that I trust, that I know that are feel that are going to come back up, because historically that's always happened. Even in 1987, when they had Black Friday on October 19th, I know that because of my birthday. The movie, I can't remember, Wall Street came out. The next day, there was a huge sell-off, and it was basically a mini depression. But you know how many millionaires bounced back from that because they did the right thing? When everything shot down, they bought all they could. And then 3 years later, it was up 30% over what it was when it fell. So those are the mindsets that you have to change, of saying, I'll do it next month, or I'll start doing it when I get a raise. Start doing it now. The sooner you start and you learn about compounding interest and how dividends work and capital gains over time, you can actually build wealth, not just become rich. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And that's what young people need to realize. The earlier you get started, the better off you're going to be, and it will be well worth it. Somebody said earlier, sacrifice now so you can reap the benefits later. There's no more truth than that.
Yeah, sacrifice now while your body is young and strong and full of energy. Like 18 to 30, that's where you need to be working your ass off, because after 30, even if you're in shape, once you start hitting 35, 36, 37, those knees, they're going to be whispering to you, and they're going to be telling you, hey, buddy, we can't do this much longer. And your lower back is going to be like, hey, buddy, we can't do this much longer. But 18 to 30, go hard as a motherfucker. Yes, Laurent.
I want to.
Before we no, go ahead.
I mean, Mike talks about his sex life, like sacrifice your body, and I know Mike, very healthy sex life. I would like to quote here the great Jamaican prophet Robert Nestor Marley said, "The minute you stop racing, this is the moment you win the race." And I'll give you a real life example. Back in 2011, there was the Fukushima earthquake. So it wiped out a nuclear. It was as close as it gets to nuclear apocalypse in Japan. And 3 months down the road, 3 months later, I bought my first property, and it was and everybody was depressed, so much so that the Japanese bankers look at me and say, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" And I look at them, fantastic question. How much time you got? All right, let's get back to business. And I bought this property, and everything was done. Like everything was depressed. I bought this property in Tokyo, and thanks to that, I made $3 million. I mean, at this moment, if I sold it today, I would have made $3 or $4 million. I haven't sold it. I will never sell it. But it was like literally, It was a bargain basement deal. I got the land for nearly nothing. There was a parking lot. So as Paul and Kevin said, bear markets is when fortunes are made. So this is when fortune transit. If you are in cash, if you can buy some asset, and for me, it's a real life example. This is really was the stepping stone for me to build my portfolio in real estate. And thanks to that, it's been working very well. So yeah, you can't wait, you can't delay. The two best times to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. So don't delay.
Yes, sir.
What I want to add a concept too, right? It's the concept of you can't catch a falling knife. Are you any of you guys familiar with that concept?
Oh yeah, that's my job.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Laurent knows this, right? The concept of you can't catch a falling knife is the idea of that you're going to time the markets perfectly, right? So you only buy when it's low, you only sell when it's high, and that's you try to time it perfectly.
No, hold on, you're doing it all wrong. You're supposed to buy high and sell low. That's what it's
that's what people a lot of people do, right? Because they don't start investing until they start seeing that there's this frenzy in the market, and they're like, oh shit, I better get in there before I miss out, and they get that FOMO and they invest at the top of the market, and then they get fucking wrecked. Well, the concept of the falling knife is that you're never going to perfectly time the market, right? You're never going to perfectly buy at the absolute dip. And so that's where dollar cost averaging will actually make you money in the long run. And dollar cost averaging is where you don't necessarily keep an eye on the market. You invest the same amount every month. So it doesn't matter if the market's high or low, you're investing, let's say $200 a month, right? $200 a month, every month in the market. And no matter what's going on in the market, you just keep putting that money in. Over time, you are going to be buying a lot during the dips, and you are going to actually make more money in the long run, more money actually than you would if you tried to time the market yourself. So if you play the long game, don't worry about necessarily what the market's doing. Worry about dollar cost averaging. That's the smart way to invest in the long term.
That's how my crypto's set up. I have my crypto.
As much as I hate to agree with, as much as I hate it, because what you say flies directly in the face of my job. As much as I hate to admit it, you're absolutely statistically right, Paul. But this is statistically the best strategy. Month in, month out, you park in and you automate your investments, and over time you'll do better. That, as much as I hate to admit it, because it negates the likes of yours truly, my life's mission, but you're entirely right. And I hate you for that, Paul, but many other things.
Yeah. Oh, and the rebalancing thing, right? You hated that I talked about rebalancing in the book too. You're like, oh, you're right. You got to fucking give it that haircut every year or a couple times a year or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do in my crypto. I have it set up 1st and 15th, $50 to Ethereum, and every Thursday, $5 into Solana.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you don't worry about the day-to-day ups and downs. If you can't stomach the day-to-day ups and downs, you don't need to largely invest. But don't worry about the day-to-day ups and downs. Don't worry about the small fluctuations. Look at the big picture 10 years from now. And that consistency of dividends, capital gains, reinvesting them in the same security, you would be amazed how much of a fortune you can build over time. But the day-to-day ups and downs, you don't worry about that. The guy that looks at what the Dow and the S&P is doing 4 or 5 times a day, dude, you're wasting time. That's time you can be earning more money to invest. Don't worry about the day-to-day ups and downs. Look at the long picture. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about the market and investing as a whole. I mean, a house doesn't appreciate 200% in 6 months, but over 20 years, it might.
Yeah, that's a good point. Mike, if you don't mind, I want to jump in here because there may be people that do stock trading within the chat. And for those who do stock trading, I love zero DTA or DTEs, which means 0 day to expiry. So you're literally betting on what's going to happen that day. And the days that I do that, I mean, there's times I make thousands of dollars, but there's other times where I am glued to my phone. Don't be doing that. Don't be doing that. Think more long term. because when you think short term, it just kind of puts you in a weird bubble. I don't know, Laurent, if you have any opinions on zero DTAs or DTEs.
Oh yeah, you're talking about burn theta burn on expiry.
Yeah,
I
doing
don't do that.
contracts.
It's a popular strategy with retailers. It's a popular strategy with retailers. I don't do that. We used to do calendar straddle, which is like we were long the near month index out of the money, and we were short the near the not in the money but at the money. So we were short everything is a bell curve, right? So we were short the index, or we were short single stock options, covered calls, and then we were long deep out of the money near month, which means that when the market tanks, when there's an accident, that thing will go up 7-8 times, whereas the at the money will probably tank a little bit. So in terms of payout, it actually works well. I mean, I like this kind of strategy. I think it works well with indexes, but it's a lot of how should I say? It's a lot of maintenance. It's not risk free. This is what Nassim Taleb does, by the way. Is long the wings and is short the curve and long the wings. So makes a ton of sense. I've done it. I like to do it, actually. It's a kind of interesting. I've never been able to automate it, though. One thing that I wanted to touch on before we leave the audience is what are the tips that, because we've touched a lot of complicated concepts, but remember that 90% of the people, like people who are here in this panel, are financially literate. So what is the small tips, what is the small practical takeaway that people could take the ball and run? What is the thing that I can start implementing today that will change my life a year from now? Gentlemen.
Well, I don't know if I can really speak to that thoroughly, but I can just kind of, because I'm probably the most financially illiterate person on the panel. Like, my dad was an alcoholic growing up and was into get rich programs.
That's your job.
But that was what got me on the path was basically what put me on the path to financial literacy was basically just realizing that I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, that I didn't have the answers, and that I needed to find the answers. So I found a community. That's where I found MLD's group, and I just started seeking out those individuals that had the knowledge that I didn't have, right? So that's what I would say, like, that's the micro that will lead to the macro, is just finding those pieces of information that you are lacking and building on it and taking action after you find it. Learn plus adapt equals win once again.
I agree. I would say find one of those groups like Men of Now, the Dragons membership, Mind Chrysalis. These are important things, because to point to one thing is really just to pass the buck, in my opinion. Oh, read this book, do this. How many people are going to do that? I'll buy the book. It sits on my shelf. Love that. I'm glad they do the audios. But the reality is when you have a social connection and develop friendships with men that are succeeding here, the drive that you get from that and hearing what they're doing, you look at yourself in the mirror and you go, I could do this too. And that's way more powerful than looking at the book. So that would be my recommendation is, yeah, we have an episode here or there about financial literacy, but you get into one of these groups and ask your questions. Somebody's going to pull you aside and say, okay, what do you really want to do here? Let's get at it. You're going to get a mentor, and part of getting a mentor is really important to your own well-being when it comes to financial independence. And guess what? Once you get there, you're going to help somebody else. You're going to pay it forward. And isn't that the root of something like the DragonShip's philosophy? That rising tide lifting all ships. So that would be my recommended advice. If you're asking for one piece of advice, is find one of those groups. Start with Men of Now. Start with the Dragons. Beer Club. Beer Club is one of the most reasonable out there. And they talk about everything, but guess what? This is right on topic as well. So
they talk about crypto. A lot of guys talk about crypto in Beer Club a lot.
Sure. And that's really important, because I really do think that there's a lot of future there.
I just want to add too, like, what can you do today? Thor already mentioned it. One of the greatest books of all time came out in 1926. It's based on writings from 8,000 years ago that are timeless, and that's the Richest Man in Babylon.
Anunnaki.
And the fucking Anunnaki taught us that you should pay yourself first. And a lot of people don't realize this, right? But the rich pay themselves first. The concept of paying yourself first is, a lot of people just don't understand. What do you mean pay myself first? I get my paycheck. That is paying me first. No. What you're doing with your paycheck is you're getting your paycheck and then you're paying all your bills and you're paying everyone else first. What you do is you take the first 10 to 15%. They said 10% in 1926, but 10 to 15%, you take that off the top, you pay your future self. You put that in the bank for future you. That's for you to keep. The rest goes towards your bills and your groceries and your day-to-day life. And then if you have any extra over, you can fuck around with that, right? But that first 10 to 15% goes to your future self. That's the best thing you could do. Anybody could do that. You could have a McDonald's job and take 10% out of that and put that away. I recommend putting that into, a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA or even a fucking Acorns account, but you take that off the top, you pay your future self and you don't touch it. You just don't fucking touch it.
Wait, Paul, you talked about this. Even if you took like 750 or something, how much money would you have in that timeline? I'm trying to go back to your graph because you had shared one.
Oh, yeah. I have that in the book. I think you guys talked about it on AJ's episode, but if you put that into a compound interest calculator, which Laurent already talked about, compound interest is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. If you put that in a compound interest calculator over a period of like 15 years, you'd have like, I don't know, $250,000 in the bank. It's just $750 a month, right? So like that's not very much. Like you'll never miss it. Well, it's more than $750 a month. How much did I say it was? It's more than that. But let's say you're making $750 an hour, whatever that ends up being. Every paycheck, you take 10% out of that.
Yeah, 10%. So if you take 10% of your $7.50 that you're getting at a minimum wage job, you'll hit that $289,000 in savings. If you start that at 16 and get there at 30, I believe.
35, right? It was 35 because that was
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You'll have almost $300,000 in the bank, in that. If you look at it, a lot of people don't even have that. They're 60 years old. They're getting ready to retirement. They don't even have $60,000 in the savings account. Like they are fucked, right? Yeah. If you started, maybe you're not 16 now. Maybe you are 30 and you haven't done this. Start now. You have time, right? Start now. There's no, like, what did Laurent say? The best time to plant a tree 20 years ago and now. Start now if you haven't done it, but that's the best way to do it.
Let's go around the horn before we wrap. And I think each dragon should give each give a singular piece of advice that they have personally accomplished that would be relatable to a lot of people. What do you guys think about that?
Sure, sounds good to me.
All right, let's start with you, Huds.
Oh, I have to start.
And what is your financial accomplishment you can share?
So my biggest financial thing that I want to share with people is, the first thing is to go ahead and buy Laurent's book, Algorithmic Short Selling with Python. Outside of that, understand how you can leverage credit. So Laurent said, technically on the books, he's $9 million in debt. Technically on the books, I'm also in debt, but I'm also very young and I can take out over $500,000 at any given point in time. That's a powerful place to be in. Understand, yes, it needs to be paid back in some way, but understand that there's ways to play the credit game. And I have done things that have tanked my credit. all the way down to like 650, 624, I think was the lowest. Dude, I'm like 780 again. Like very quickly. It's a quick reversal. It's not a big deal. So do your research on how you can leverage credit and take that bad debt into good debt. Now, we haven't gone through everything because everybody's situation is different. But what Paul was saying earlier and what I'm saying right now, do your research and turn your bad debt into good debt. Okay? The best place to find me, go. Oh, there we go. It's always mirrored. Go ahead and hit me up on Instagram if you want to join a group like the Dragons, like Beer Club, like Mind Chrysalis. Like these groups, they will change your life, but only if you're willing and ready. So hit me up there. God damn it, I'm doing it again. Hit me up there. Hit me up there. And I would love to have you.
Thank you, Huds. I'll go next. Guys, my biggest accomplishment that then translates into a piece of advice is no car payment. Ever, 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 ever. Did I stutter? No. Buy a used car, buy it in cash every single time. I've never had a car payment my entire life. And I would actually, at this moment in time, until I get a house, at this moment in time, that is my greatest financial accomplishment. I've never had a car payment. It's not worth it. Don't do it. Even when say you're a millionaire, say you in 15 years, you got $100 million in cash in the bank. Don't do a car payment. Walk into that Mercedes dealership and put down the cash. They'll knock a few thousand off just for you doing that anyway. But obviously don't do that unless you can afford that and all the costs associated with it. Like I showed earlier, the $300 brake pads for a Lamborghini, and I think there's anywhere of 8 of those per Lambo, so $300 times 8 just to replace your brake pads.
8 on the front.
8 on the front alone.
Yeah, it's four pads per caliper on the front, typically.
There you go.
On those Brembos.
$300 a pop. So keep that in mind, guys. Where can you find me? On IG, right down there. That's where everything is nice and happy and friendly, and everybody, it's all warm hugs and glitter and Care Bears and shit. On my X, that's where it's Mike Steele After Dark, where I raw dog the internet and piss off the feminists and the white knights, as I did the other night. And now Rollo has backed me up. For once, I hopped on something before Rollo did. Rollo basically repeating what I said in his own words, that basically if a guy's not good enough to have a one-night stand with, then you shouldn't be committing to him anyway. Right. So just echoing what I said. So I actually beat him to something for once. But yeah, X is where I raw dog the internet. I just got a message. Interesting. So check me out over there, guys. Don't get a car payment. Ever. Huds. Or excuse me, Tarl. My bad.
Yes, sir. So I say, so my credit was nothing. I had no credit up until I found this space at age 34, right? And after the last few years, my credit went from, I think it was like 500 something, right? Like barely 600. And I got it all the way up to, last time I checked it, it was about 798. So that I guess you consider that an accomplishment. I view that as just me finally getting my shit right. But I did do that and I got that done. My girl's credit is over 800, right? So our credit is good and it is very important. And we do our basic bills, but then pay it all off right away. Those basic habits that you build will build credit. You'll get points. You'll get to be able to spend those points. And most credit companies do these things to incentivize people to use theirs over other companies, but most people are ignorant of it. So the main advice I would give, once again, is do your due diligence. Don't cut corners. Do the research. Assume you don't know everything. Assume that even the people you're learning from don't know everything. Take it with a grain of salt, but do your due diligence and double check your work. And you will get better results if you are disciplined. Myron says it all the time. It's one of the things that stuck out in my mind. Adherence is the number one determiner of success or failure. Where to find me? YouTube channel.
Paul.
Well, I'll give you this piece of advice. I learned this from Ryan Stone, the world's greatest red pill couch. He has perfect teeth. He has perfect hair. Fuck that guy.
What does he know about being bald?
He don't know shit about being bald. When you want to know like where to get advice for anything in life, you got to sort of look at the person giving advice and go, is that guy living the kind of life I want to live? Right. And so I'll say this, right? I lay out all this kind of financial stuff in my book. I live in a bracket where I am too rich to be able to invest in a Roth IRA anymore. Did you know that you can make too much money to invest in a Roth IRA? You would not know that because I wear a t-shirt and jeans and I drive a car that's paid off. I bought it in cash. I bought it $60,000 in cash, went and bought it. And you can do that if you're good with your money. Now, I'm not a I'm a big Dave Ramsey guy, but I'm not an anti-FICO score guy. I've got a FICO score of 836. A perfect score is 900. So I'm not quite there yet, but I don't know anybody who has a 900 perfect score. But
that was a very interesting soft flex that you just did right
I just wanted to let you know that my FICO score is better than Huds's. That's really what that was about. But anyway, get my book. My book will lay all this out for you. I have a chapter called How Anybody Can Get Rich, and it's all about being good with your money, right? So check that out. It's available on Amazon and Audible. Thor did the narration for it on Audible. If you have an Audible subscription, use your next credit on it. It's called Everything I Wish I Knew When I Was 18. Other than that, tune into the podcast Monday. I'm going to be talking about the concept of the razor's edge. I don't know if you guys have heard this concept before, but the concept of the razor's edge is that the difference between winning and losing is often a micro difference. And so I'm going to talk about how you could apply the razor's edge concept in your dating and relationship lives to be that much better than your competition. So tune into that on Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern time.
I'm gonna ask you about that. Is that similar to like the butterfly effect, where you do like one thing slightly differently and it leads to drastically different results?
No, it's really in the idea of competition. And so like there was a book about it called The Razor's Edge, and I read about it in You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor, but he's talking about it how like this one horse race in the 1920s or something like that won by like a fraction of a second, and it would win by a fraction of a second. And it was just because they would do just like one thing slightly different in his training regiment that made him that much more faster, and then when they would win the race, they would win millions of dollars, right? And then like the second place winner would only get like a couple thousand. So it's like that slight difference made them way more money. There's all sorts of examples of that, right? In business, just having great customer service will separate you from your competition. And most people like good customer service is a lost art. That's a razor's edge difference, so.
Yeah, that's a really good point. A lot of people neglect that the essence of competition is you don't have to be doing a million things better or way better. You don't have to be Usain Bolt fast. You just got to be faster than the other guy.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, AJ.
Best thing I'd talk about with this is I wish I learned it a lot sooner. 2 books I'd highly recommend everyone read is this one from our friend Paul. Another one, Bachelor Pad Economics by Aaron Clary. That book alone, I read it this year for the first time, has changed my mind on a lot of things. Yes, that book right there. It's a tome. It is full of good stuff. It's like Paul's book is the abridged version of that book, in my opinion. Don't be afraid when you're young also to experiment and mess up. You have time. Like I've messed up plenty of times. I've had my credit as low as a 540. I'm just a little over 700 right now. I'm not afraid to downsize. And another piece of advice when it comes to financial, when it comes to buying a house, buy a house for you. Do not buy a house for your wife or your girlfriend or etc. That's why I'm stuck in a 1,900 square foot house right now, and I'm getting ready to sell. Where to find me? I have actually taken down my Facebook. I'm off IG right now. pretty much the only place you can find me is on X. I'll post my X and Twitter in the chat here, and that's all I got, man.
All right, Kevin, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. I love being part of a panel like this, and I hope people watching get a little bit, we kind of all over the place for financial accomplishments. I already mentioned it before. About 3 years ago, I paid my house off completely debt free. My next milestone to meet is to be a net worth millionaire, and I'm only a couple $100,000 away from doing that. But the tip that I would give is don't overload yourself with knowledge. Learn the basics, learn the power of a budget and sticking to it, and reach out to other people, like several people have said, that are in the shoes that you want to be. Never take financial advice from a broke person. So if you want to reach me, you can find me at menumnow.us. I don't have my Instagram up, but it's pretty simple, at klewis_NC. Reach out. I would gladly, complimentary, go over a budget with you and learn your short-term financial goals and put you on a path to being where you want to be. Starting is the hardest part. And when you have nothing, you don't think you can gain anything. However, you'll see it doesn't take long. You just got to switch your mindset. And the last thing I'll say on that is don't listen to the haters. If anybody critiques you on wanting to sacrifice now to become debt-free or don't listen to them. Family members are probably the worst people you can include on these goals because they think they know everything and they will try to derail you. So instead of telling them the goals, show them your results a year from now. And that's probably the best thing I could say for somebody getting started out, but stick to the basics.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Laurent, our honorable host today.
Yeah. The most important thing is work on your mindset. If you have the right mindset, if you believe that you're worthy of being rich, because if you're not, you're going to self-sabotage yourself, and I've seen it countless times. So that is by far the most important thing. One of the other limiting beliefs is I don't have enough. So let me give you a couple of examples. There was a dude by the name of Ronald Reed. Ronald Reed. This guy was a janitor. He was a janitor in a gasoline station. I mean, it's not exactly Wall Street material. However, when he died, he bequeathed $1.2 million to the local library. He also did a charity. And so this guy basically saved. He had a very frugal lifestyle. Nobody saw him. He didn't eat lobster and steak every meal, but he was very frugal and he kept on plowing money into the market. So it works. There's another guy by the name of Kurt Denigan. This guy was finishing other people's meals at McDonald's, the local McDonald's in Sweden. This guy had $2 million when he died. He just went to the local library, educated himself. So it's not about where you start from. It's about the journey. It's really about plowing money into the market. It's about educating yourself, reading books like Paul's books, is really surrounding yourself with like-minded people. I was also having a conversation last week, a couple of weeks ago. We went to a 3-star Michelin restaurant with a friend of mine. This guy he probably clips about $1 million a year. And then he looked at me and said, you know what? I wish I'd known you a long time before, because he has this very high money-making job, but he didn't invest into real estate. And thanks to the conversations that we had, he now invests in real estate. He has multiple properties. So it's really about the journey. It's about surrounding yourself with good people, people who will make you grow. And I think that one of the takeaways here is only take advices from the people you want to look like. So that's very important.
Would you trade places with them?
I'm sorry?
That expression, would you trade places with this person?
Yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, today, it's an honor and a privilege being in your company, gentlemen. I've learned a ton from everyone here, from a new member, Kevin, as well. So thank you very much for having me. It's an honor and a privilege.
Absolument bon, monsieur.
No, the privilege is ours. Thank you so much, Laurent, for dropping so much wisdom. And again, guys, I have to say, if you have not looked into this, get Laurent's book. I know he's working on a second edition right now, but this
Yes.
is fantastic.
The second edition will be really good because the second edition will have at that time I was not a good programmer, but now I can program decently. So you'll have like asset allocation of ETFs, you'll learn a ton of stuff. And you learn what's important about the market. Most people look at when most retailers look at the market, they look at entry. When should I get in the market? Let me give you a very simple analogy. Getting married is easy. You can go to Vegas, have a beer with Mike and get married, have a shotgun marriage. It's super easy. So, however, the getting out of a marriage is really tough. Divorces are messy. So getting in the market is as easy as it gets. Is the getting out is the most. So always think about how you're going to get out of the market and how much money you should have in there. So people, it's very simple. Like every brainwashed feminist says, correlation is not causation. Well, when 95% of the people lose money on the market year after year, 95% of the people focus solely on entry, it tells you something. They're focusing on the wrong shit. So focus on exit, focus on position sizing. And also the most important financial decision of your lifetime. Warren Buffett says it himself. The most important financial decision you will ever make in your lifetime is who you choose to marry.
Yep, that's right.
No other financial decision comes remotely close to that. And the best financial decision you can ever make is not to get married.
God
Let
bless.
Gonna go.
Let that sink in.
Yep.
And
So that's
it's not
a big deal.
it's not that we hate women. There's layers to this, but yes, let that sink in. Think about it. Go ahead, Thor. Sorry.
Yeah, let me give you some hope on those sort of things. As I open this up, I guess I gotta throw a flex. I'm not gonna show my FICO score or anything like that, or any of the other things that happen. And it's not really a flex. It's gonna be just 2 words. Laurent will understand. Some of the guys will understand. This is a goal, and this will be your biggest flex if you can get it. Accredited investor. If you don't know what it is, find out. If you can get there, that's a great place to be. It'll take you many years, but that opens up a world of venture capital to you should you need it. Aside from that, let's get to the question, which is what is the financial advice? I'm going to hold that for a minute, and I'm going to go back to my notes here, and I'm going to talk about I was on a show with Glenn Lawrence, and we had this lady that called in. She was very upset, and the reason I'm doing this here is to follow up is she was having some trouble in her marriage. And so I offered one of my lectures, and I posted it into the chat at a reduced rate, half rate actually. And it is called The Sexless Bedroom, The Cure to the Sexless Bedroom. A lot of long-term relationships have issues there. As the sex starts to wane, it's become very popular in the Christosphere to talk about this. I spent several years of research on this and put this lecture together. It's over 2 hours of video. I think all of the guys here have seen it. They can comment on it if they want, but it's a no BS, no punches pulled. How am I going to fix this so that I can stay in a relationship? Why is that important? I'll tell you. Because just like Laurent said, one of the most important decisions you can make if you're moving forward in life and you want financial independence, you've heard all the basics. You can do all the basics. But most people want to be married and have a family. And if you choose poorly, you're going to get zeroed out several times. I've been zeroed out twice. So, and you can recover from it, but just think how much further ahead you can get if you choose wisely. My second wife, I chose, happened to be a banker. She's very good with money, but you can observe these things. When the value that she brings to you is so much, and you watch her financial life and her past, and you can see that she's been frugal, she's not to keep up with the Joneses, she's not asking you for all these lip injections, all this beauty products, she's not expecting one damn thing from you except your commitment and love for her, you got something important there that you'd want to capitalize on, especially if she has some sort of financial literacy, which most women do not. If they come to you and they've got college debt, they essentially come to you with a mortgage that they probably will never pay off, and it's something they can never get away from. Essentially, they're a debt slave now forever. So consider those things when you're picking a long-term relationship. You definitely want to consider the future. She needs to be on board with your program. She needs to be on board that you're good. She's good with you handling the finances. If you're a man and you're listening to this and you are getting a dominant masculine presence, which I'm going to give you something here in a second, you want to be in charge of all your finances. You want to keep a handle on this. You want to keep your eyes open and your head on a swivel when it comes to this. You don't want to pass that checkbook on and say, honey, pay all the bills. You're asking to be shot in the head with a golden bullet. Don't do that. So that's some of the advice I can ask. I'm also going to offer you guys right now at a very reduced rate, my audiobook in video format on Become Durable. I'm posting that right now. It's basically half price. Go over there, grab it. You can put it on any one of your devices. And essentially, it is a video version of the audio of my book, A Dominant Masculine Presence. Doesn't necessarily go into the detail on the financial side, but it'll give you the principles such as prosperity. Prosperity is one of the skills you have to acquire to maintain attraction to not just the opposite sex, but to everybody. If you're prosperous, men come to you and want to be with you. They want to collaborate with you. They want to enter business agreements. They want to enter friendships with you. Women see that prosperity and it is, hey, I need to lock this down. This will secure my future. For a woman, you look like financial independence, retire early. It's called FIRE. So, that's kind of our goal too as men in this space, is to be able to have financial independence. How would it be if you woke up every day and you're not really worried about your mortgage? You're not really worried about a car payment. If I need a car, just buy it outright. If I am going to a 5-star restaurant, everything on the menu is on the table. I'm not worried about it. How would it be to do what I want every day and not have to show up somewhere? Financial independence is a big deal that should be in your mind at some spot, and you should have this in your mind when you're selecting a mate, particularly for a long-term relationship. Come to Become Durable. Look at what I'm offering you there at a reduced rate for principles of a long-term relationship. I talk about that specifically. And for those of you interested in seeing the updated lecture, go and sign up for the Men's Empowerment Network. Just search it online. I'll be delivering a brand new lecture next Tuesday on this very topic. It's probably going to go 2 to 4 hours with some revised information that you can use. So once again, that'd be the Men's Empowerment Network.com, MEN.com. That's being run through Modern Life Dating, a good friend of mine who Myron Gaines and myself has worked with, and many others. So if you're very interested in it, I'd go sign up. I think today you can still sign up. Today will be the last day, I think. I could be wrong, but sign up. You're not just going to get my lecture. You're going to get another 8 guys that you'd be very familiar with in this space, giving you information that you can't get anywhere else. So with that, that's kind of my long-winded advice. And then pick up a soft copy or go over there and get the video version of the audiobook for half price, guys. Thank you. Am I heading us out, or Mike? I got
the last thing I want to say before we go ahead and hit it out, and Mike, you just get that set up. The last thing I want to say is I am only where I am today because of MLD. So when Thor is going ahead and saying MEN, the Men's Empowerment Network, and the community that you will get there, that is why I am here today. That is also another fantastic community that you guys can join, and definitely take a look at it. I don't know if it's closed yet. And even if it is, hey, shoot an email to John. I'm sure he could make something work out.
He did it for me when I had my breakup with my ex. Literally happened right after closing for a quarter, and John reopened it up just for me to join. So John will work with you, and I respect that man. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today either.
And the
Yeah,
Masculine
use my
Empowerment
name as
Network.
well. I mean, the guy, think of it what you will. A lot of people hate him, but he is not who you think he is. The man flew from Tokyo to spend a week with me here. Yeah, he's not that guy. He's very different and very conscientious, which makes him I hate to say it, but John, he's a loving dude. And he really invests in his clients like probably nobody else. That's why he is as successful as he is.
And the Masculine Empowerment Network, John opened it up for me as well. Right after I got shit canned from my job after being falsely accused of some shenanigans that, of course, nobody could prove. They never can. And that's where I met AJ. And right after that is when I got my current job, and I'm thriving.
Yeah, that's pretty special, man. Flew from Tokyo to visit me, picked up John Fitch on the way. Who does that? That's cool, man. Anyway, that's the kind of guys you get there.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Dragons, for joining us today. I will be hosting next week. I have not just picked a topic yet, but I suspect it's going to revolve around my semi-viral tweet. So I'll put some thought into that, and we'll see you guys next week.
Ever feel like the world is trying to make you smaller? That the qualities that used to define you are now something to be ashamed of? It's not just you. For decades, society has been pushing men to fit into a mold that doesn't match who they are. But there's a way out. A path to reclaim what it means to be a man. A Dominant Masculine Presence by R.P. Thor is the guide you've been waiting for. In this book, you'll discover the 7 essential skills that every man needs to stand tall and take control. Learn how to project confidence, master your emotions, and communicate with authority. R.P. Thor takes you through real-life examples, sharing practical techniques to help you develop your own dominant masculine presence. It's time to stop feeling sidelined. Time to step up and lead. With a dominant masculine presence, you can become the man you were meant to be. Order a Dominant Masculine Presence now on Amazon or listen on Audible. Rediscover your strength. Reclaim your life.